I think these uniforms are on the ball. They're on point. They're on fleek, as the little childrens would say. Or as I say, they're on fleet. Star Trek Prodigy, Episode 9, Moral Star. I know I've been complaining about unimaginative episode titles. This one's a bit more imaginative. However, I don't know what it means. What is a moral star? I certainly did not find out in part 1. Maybe we'll find out in part 2. This episode, I feel, was better than the last one. But if you're the type of person where timey-wimey, time travel, plots work better on you, you're probably going to like the previous one. But if you're like me, and you like classic Starfleet action, you might like this one better. I really like this episode. It's not perfect. It's far from bad. And we got to see a lot of things returning in concept and in visuals that have been sorely lacking in this show and possibly in all of Star Trek for the past few years. Namely being a cool looking uniform, a reverence for the beauty of our technology that surrounds us in the protostar, and so on. So, with that out of the way, we're going to cut the generalities and we're going to get down to the brass tacks. We're getting a top brass send-off for part 1 of a 2-parter, Moral Star. This is Star Trek Prodigy, Episode 9. This episode, we see, in reference to the previous episode, Dreadnought, the robot that was replicated, very frighteningly I might add, by the Protostar's replicator in order to take over the ship. Imagine your own replicator turning on you and creating an enemy for you. Has that happened before? Has a replicator on Star Trek ever created an enemy? Cool idea, but that's beside the point. We're playing around with the dead corpse of Dreadnought. He's a robot, so I guess not really a corpse. And Dal flicks his head or something, and then the head falls on the floor, boing, and it plays a video message. So a holographic message of the Diviner is issuing a final ultimatum to the crew of the Protostar. Return my Protostar, return my ship, and I will set all your previous slave buddies free. Remember that our characters came from a slave colony called Tars Lamora, and these people, Rok, Dal, Gwyn, Murph, and Zero, and Jankum, they're the only characters that escaped. So they're probably feeling a little bit guilty. But see, we're going full circle, and it's a beautiful thing. We started off as slaves. We became people of Starfleet. We learned how the Protostar worked. We put on our uniforms, and we went back. We're totally different people now. But rest assured, everything we ever were is still a small part of us, right? So we're not forgetting who we were. We're taking it forward, but we're doing the right thing, okay? We're bringing hope to a hopeless situation, as Janeway said in this episode. And nothing's more Starfleet than that. This episode just had hope, and it had love, and it trusted in itself, which is something you don't see from live action Trek. So, we're putting our plan together. We're going to go back to Tars Lamora. We're going to defeat the Diviner in some way. We're going to rescue our friends, and we're not giving the Diviner what he wants. We're not making deals with no Diviner. We're not taking his ultimatum. We're getting everything we want, and he's getting nothing. We're going in there, we're rescuing our friends, we're taking the Protostar, and screw the Diviner. Who cares? This felt good, and I imagine kids would really think this felt good if they were watching it. Are they watching it? Have you seen a kid watching this show yet? Other than myself, obviously. Well, I guess I ain't no spring chicken. So we're putting together a plan, doing some percussive maintenance, as I said before, on things. Bing, bang, boom. Montage of us building things that will make sense later. This episode is actually pretty well written. This episode will make more sense on the second viewing. You realize that the twist at the end, they were foreshadowing it and telegraphing it to you, the audience, without you realizing it in their dialogue. So they're saying things like, "Thank God Murph's indestructible," wink wink, and then they show them playing around with jetpacks. When's that going to come into play? It'll make sense on your second viewing. So we're going back to Tars Lamora, but to get there fast enough, we have to be there quick enough so that the diviner doesn't kill everybody on the slave colony. And we also, if we don't do that, Starfleet will be too slow to get there on their own. So we can't go back to the Federation. We have the proto-drive. We're going there ourselves. Dal, in a moment that I think contrasts so well with Picard, Dal finds the uniforms that came with the Protostar. And he finds it, and they show it the same exact way. They show it coming out of the shadows of a drawer. We see the uniform, we see the badge, and it's shining, and he's looking at it, and then he puts it on, and then he presents himself to Janeway. "Hey, you clean up nice." And the whole crew walks on the set with their uniforms on, looking snazzy, like they're going to save the day. Now, if you've seen a similar scene in Star Trek Picard, Rios on the La Serena looks at his Starfleet uniform the same way. He takes it out, he looks at the badge, he's looking at it, and then he proceeds to not put it on and instead get blasted off his ass drunk. Yeah, real nice. That's what I want to see on TV. I see my uniform, I get drunk on mind-altering substances like alcohol. Give me a break. How does that qualify as Star Trek? Star Trek Picard. Give me a break. Anyway, back to Star Trek Prodigy. We're activating the proto-drive again. And it plays the sequence from the intro. And I love when they do that, when the intro plays into a plot. Oh, it looks so cool. It sounds so cool. I mean, I'm not a fan of the regular warp travel having a light tube, but it's okay when a new form of propulsion does it. So the proto-drive, we go into this purple tunnel, and it looks completely ridiculous. It's so cool. And we're just in awe of it. Dal's looking around, smiling at everything that the Protostar was doing, and the history behind the technology, and the logic and reason that went into designing it, and the objectivity and the clarity. It was really something. We're piercing through this miasma of nonsense with the Protostar. There's this visual feeling that we're getting across here that we don't have to get across with inane baby dialogue like we would in the adult TV shows. Reminds me of when they fixed the warp drive in the motion picture, and they're all so impressed by it, and Kirk looks over at Chekhov, and Chekhov's like, and Kirk gives him the wink. So cool. Anyway, they get back to Tars Lamora, and we end up trading Gwyn. So Gwyn herself has to return to the Diviner, and we're thinking, holy crap, this is getting sidelined a little bit. So they trade the Protostar. The Diviner flies away with the Protostar, but guess what? I promised you freedom, not survival. And he shoots the power generator for the colony, leaving them nothing. Bit of a twist. Bit of a complication in our plan. Gwyn is gone on the Protostar. The Diviner has the Protostar. And the slave colony is about to go bye-bye. And Rok, Murph, Zero, Jankum are still down on the surface. And what are they going to do? Drop the act, boys. They can't see us anymore. Okay, here's what they did. Spoilers. You should watch this episode, but spoilers. We've established for this entire show that Murph is indestructible. Okay. There is a reason why we showed Murph eating a grenade and being okay. There's a reason why we showed Murph existing in the vacuum of space outside the ship and being okay. The reason why we spent so long establishing how strong Murph was that in this episode we needed Murph to swallow the protostar. The baby star inside the protostar's proto-drive. Murph swallowed that thing and is holding it inside his body. But so how can the diviner use the proto-drive without the proto-star? Murph has it in its body. So the diviner's screwed. And wouldn't you know it, we did sneak those jetpacks in from earlier. So we have our jetpacks to assist us in the zero-gravity rescue of all the enslaved people on this slave colony, Tars Lamora. So the diviner's screwed over. Not before he had a chance to summon evil Janeway. The diviner turned off the old hologram of Janeway and turned on the new one. And it's dark and nasty looking mirror Janeway. And it's hilarious. It's just stupid enough to be funny. I do have a few complaints, but it was interesting as a whole, this episode. So we end our episode with our main characters zero-G rocket packing into the core of the slave colony, and the diviner being, "Dang it, I don't have access to the proto-drive. Will I have to go back to the colony and beg them to give it back? Find out next time on Star Trek Prodigy, Moral Star Part 2. That's where we're at. All kinds of little funny bits here, interesting references here and there. I can't go into exact details. Really, you should watch it. But to sum it up, I would say at the moral and philosophical core of this episode, we're seeing our characters go back to the place they want to go back to least. Dal, everyone's hesitant, including Dal being the captain, about going back here. Because once they go back, they may never be able to leave. Do they have the confidence to go back? Are they strong enough people to go back to the one place they hate the most? You know, philosophically speaking, what you want to find is often in the one place you don't want to be looking at. Okay, you have to go to the depths of hell to pull back out a little piece of heaven. Okay? And just when you think you can't, you can. And just when you think it's impossible, you find that it's possible. And that's what we're learning in this episode. Dal was a slave, and Gwyn was the de facto slave owner, begrudgingly. Can we form together into the uber mind of the protostar itself? Can we be of one mind? Can we join together now to take our bad memories and not hide them, but incorporate them into our new self? Can we take these bad memories and make enough good memories that the bad memories no longer affect us? Can we go back to where we came from, transformed? Can we complete our hero's journey? There's a lot of interesting philosophical subtext in this episode that if you're paying attention, you'll notice. And there's some meat on the skeleton of this episode. Especially with interactions between Dal and Gwyn. And I will say that it felt like the unique character journey that everybody went on was preparing them for this. They all needed their skills up to make this happen. We needed to learn how the protostar really worked. We needed to learn how to operate it to pull off this mission. Rok needed to know how to program computers. She needed that time alone on the ship to learn how to reprogram everything. We needed Murph. We needed to know that Murph was indestructible. We needed Dal's leadership abilities at peak performance. Everyone has to be operating on all cylinders, okay? We are no longer ourselves. We are the protostar. This is now our ship. We are flying the ship. We are of one mind. We are now in uniform. Who are we really? And on top of that, now that we have our moral core explored, this episode looked, I mean, do I need to say it? That this episode looked fantastic? All these episodes really pop, okay? There's only been a few kind of ugly ones, but on the whole, they really pop. Maybe you're getting tired of me saying it, that these episodes are beautiful, but they are. There's fantastic shots of the Protostar. Puts every other live-action show to shame, I must say. Character designs are really vibrant. The uniforms are ace. I love these uniforms. They're very, very nice. But I must say, they're only nice kind of because they're just channeling, like, Season 1 TNG type thing. And if you've seen my uniform tier list video, you would know that I really actually like the TNG jumpsuits. I like the fleeting nature of them. They're quite intrepid, if you will. And the swooping lines give the idea of forward propulsion, right? And that's really on display with these uniforms. Although they are all the same color, gray, which makes sense. This is like a cadet's uniform. I was a little bit perplexed when I saw Janeway convert to her new version of her uniform, and I only saw a little command red stripe on the shoulder. Is that how this is supposed to look? I figured that the white section here would be the division color, not a little stripe. Maybe this is just a red herring. We'll have to see. Up until now, we've only seen a brief snippet of this uniform on Chakotay, but it was all monochromatic. So I had no way to tell what the division colors looked like on that uniform. But now I'm a little bit worried just seeing the one stripe on Janeway's shoulders. Hopefully that's not how you determine division, because you can almost not see it. However, white has been incorporated before in Star Trek as a primary color for a uniform. If you look at the uniforms of Star Trek Online, if you consider that canon, that would take place slightly after Star Trek Prodigy, if the dates are correct. So maybe that's where they're getting the idea to incorporate white, to be kind of like what was going on in Star Trek Online. Maybe I'm imagining things, but suffice to say, I think these uniforms are on the ball. They're on point. They're on fleek, as the little childrens would say. Or as I say, they're on fleet. Okay, sound-wise, fantastic. We're not going to know the perk every time. It's wondrous, it's imaginative. It calls to mind the old days, but suggests something new entirely. The classic Star Trek themes, the motifs of the old days, are tastefully present, as well as the new motifs we've established for the show. On behalf of the intro music, which I never skip, by the way. I've never skipped the intro to this show yet, which should mean something. So it looks beautiful, sounds beautiful, it thinks beautiful, and it plays beautiful. However, I wonder sometimes if maybe I'm imagining this show as being better than it really is, because everything else was so much worse. I know I've said before that this would not compare super favorably to 90s Star Trek. So am I imagining that this is better than it is? I always have to wonder that. So I always temper my feelings, you know? I watch it, I love it, I sleep on it, I like it a little less. I watch it again, I play it through in my mind, and then I watch it a third time looking for problems, and I really just want to get a fair assessment here. I don't want to... Sometimes you can have rose-tinted goggles for what you're watching now, okay? Because you're comparing it favorably to other things that were bad from now. See? I mean, if things can look really good in comparison, like a shit sandwich is probably a lot better than a sandwich with radioactive plutonium, right? So, I mean, but the shit sandwich is still a shit sandwich. Something tells me that this isn't a shit sandwich, though. Something tells me that this is a pretty good sandwich. Maybe it's just a ham and cheese sandwich. And you're hungry. And you're so hungry that you're going to devour that ham and cheese sandwich, no matter how plain and boring it is. Because you're starving for something, and that's a lot better than nothing. And it's certainly better than a shit sandwich. Star Trek Prodigy is a nice sandwich when you're starving for a Star Trek sandwich. So, what are the problems with this episode? Well, we did have another instance of ugly blue tube hyperspace travel when we're supposed to just be in normal warp. I'm never going to like that. Sorry. Number 2, the diviner was a little bit mustache twirling in this episode. He seemed a little bit hilariously evil. Like, why did he bother blowing up the slave colony after he already had the protostar? I thought his motivations were pretty clear. He wants the protostar, he wants his daughter, and that's it. Why did we destroy the colony? Like, they should have built in something, like there was something he was trying to hide, so that he had to destroy it when he left, to clean up the evidence of what he was doing, maybe. Maybe we'll see that in part 2. You should know that everything I'm saying in this episode is predicated on the fact that I've only seen part 1 of a 2-parter episode. So if part 2 resolves some of these problems, I could be totally wrong. Maybe there is a reason he destroyed it. I don't know. The secrets are yet to be revealed. And I think that's really about it. What else was going on in this episode? Well, it's interesting when you have to search for complaints. When you have to really think to find what's wrong with it. The script was pretty tight. I don't know. These episodes are tight. This season so far, it's vastly improved in design over Discovery, for example. This is a serialized show, but you never notice it because these episodes, they all feel unique and different from each other, but effortlessly tie into each other to tell an overarching story of character development and the hero's journey. It's beautiful in its own way. I don't know if kids are going to love it, but I loved it. I liked it. I liked it. Love is a little bit extreme. I thought this episode was better than the last one. Not as good as Kobayashi. So I'm going to go ahead and give this episode a 7. There's your 7. Maybe if more, this is a pretty good first half of a 2-parter. So if we get a part 2 and it's really good, and it's really, really Star Trek-y, we might be seeing our first 8 for this show. Maybe. For what it's worth, the more Star Trek-y it is, the better at this point, and this episode was pretty Star Trek-y. We went on an adventure to save people. We're putting our differences aside. We're doing the dangerous thing. We're wearing our uniforms. We're pushing the boundaries of our technology. We're flying our ship at the edge of its operational envelope. We are tricking bad guys. We are winning without firing phasers. We are asking philosophical and moral questions. And we are working as a team, and we're not abusing drugs. No F-bombs. It's not hard. Okay? This is Mark, and I'm about to go on my own little away mission somewhere out here in this huge galaxy. I'll see you guys next week.